Rent got too expensive, had to leave LA. So I got into my car and I went away to the big estate. Playing poker every day. Going all in with these fish like I'm at an all-you-can-eat buffet. Back on the road again, we start our descent to the west coast with a 5-hour drive from Dallas to Lubbock, Texas. Why Lubbock, you might ask? Well, it's home to none other than Texas Tech's very own Patty Mahomes, as well as the juiciest 10 to 25 on the button, no limit hold'em game around. Check it out. We sit down at the 10 to 25 on the button table, in for $2,000. First hand of the night, we look down at Queen 9 of clubs from the cutoff. Early position opens it up to $10, and Jared puts in the 3-bet to $25. Barry puts in the call, I do as well, and that brings in the button and 2 other players. First hand of the night, and we're already 6 ways to the flop, which comes King, King 9, giving us second pair with a backdoor straight and flush draw. On the flop, the action checks around, which brings the Queen of diamonds on the turn. We already had 2 pair, but now we improve to Queens and Kings, and Jared leads out for $25. Action folds to me, and I decide to pop him up to $60 here. Why? I think it's unlikely on the flop that he would check a king. There were some straight and flush draw possibilities, so I think a king would have bet out there. I think a queen might have the best hand, so I raise it up for value to $60. Only Jared puts in the call, and I'm going heads up to the river. River comes the ace of spades. There's $270 in the pot. Not exactly the best card, and Jared confirms our suspicion that he might have a better hand than us when he leads out for $60. I think about my options here. When I raise him on the turn, that's a pretty strong move. I'm pretty much saying I have a king. When he leads out into me on the river for such a small sizing relative to the size of the pot, he's basically telling me he has a king or possibly a straight like Jack 10. So even though I'm getting a great price with my 2 pairs, I just find a fold here, looking to pick up a better spot here at stacks. For the next hour, we play a few pocket pairs and other random hands, missing some flops, and we find ourselves in the next hand with $1,600 in our stack. We're down $400 on the session, but no worries. We look down at ace-queen offsuit. The $10 is on the button. Barry puts in the $20 straddle, and the big blind finds a call. Action's on me. We're stuck in the session. Ace-queen is a premium, especially in this game, so I pop it up to $100. We get called in 2 spots, the late position and the big blind, so we're going 3 ways to the flop. Flop's decent for us. It comes king, queen 3 with 2 clubs. We don't have a club in our hand. It would be nice if the ace of diamonds was that, but big blind checks it over to me. I'm in between 2 opponents, the big blind and the late position player, so even though I have a pair, I decide to check it over to him and see what he does. He checks behind, so with 330 still in the pot, we see the 10 of clubs on the turn. Still with second pair and a gutter now to the Broadway straight. The big blind checks it over to me for a second time, and now I want to go for some value. There's some draws out there, and anyone with a jack will have an open-ended straight draw, so I bet out for $100. Late position finds a call. Big blind gets out of the way, so now we're going heads up to the river. River's a brick. It comes the 5 of diamonds, and the action's on me. If I bet out here, I'd probably only get called by better hands. All worse hands would fold, but if I check it over to him, he could go for a bet here with some bluffs, so that's what I elect to do. I check it over to the late position player. He thinks for a while and then bets out for $450 into the $530 pot. This is a very polarizing bet. He's basically saying he has the nuts or nothing. What's the nuts on this board? Ace jack. I block that, having the ace of diamonds in my hand. Not the most important thing to note, but definitely something to consider when in a tough spot like this. He also could be betting here for a full pot size bet with kings, queens, 10s, jack 9 as well. And the only hand that we block there is pocket queens, having the queen of spades in our hand. So there are some missed draws, queen jack, jack 10, and 2 clubs. We don't have any of those in our hand, so our hand has some pretty good unblocking properties. I go into the tank probably for around 2 minutes here, which is definitely the longest I've done in recent sessions. I cut out 450 and start shuffling them in my hand. Ultimately though, I think he's going to have a lot of bluffs in this situation. When I check to him on the river, that's pretty weak. I find a call, hoping he shows me a missed straight or flush draw. He has a jack in his hand, but it's followed by a 9. Jack 9 of hearts is good for the king high straight, and he's going to scoop that nearly $1,500 pot. We have some work to do in the session. We're down $1,050 on the night. We rebuy for $1,000 more, looking to add ammunition to our stack. An hour goes by and we pick up the bullets, pocket aces, American Airlines, and we're in middle position. $10 is on the button, the $20 straddle is on. What else is new? And I pop it up to $60, which in hindsight might be a little bit small. Probably best in this game to be going closer to $100. No worries though, we get 2 callers. The button and under the gun both find a call, and we're going 3 ways to a flop. Flop's a favorable one for us. It comes ace-6-4, bang, we flop top set. 2 clubs on board though, and some straight draws like 5-7. But when under the gun checks it over to me, I decide to check my hand here over to the button. I'm in between 2 players. Lucky for us, the button rips it all in for $150, and when under the gun gets out of the way, I immediately slide my chips in and let him know that I have a good hand. Turn comes a 6 of hearts, giving us a boat right away. Not worried about any of the draws anymore. The queen of clubs completes the front door flush draw. He turns over ace-7 with the ace of clubs. Decent hand from him, but our boat is going to take that one down. $480 coming our way. Finally starting to climb a little bit back out of that hole. With 2,000 now in our stack, we look down at pocket jacks from the under the gun +1 position. $25 is on the button. That's the most you can do, and I decide to raise it up to $60. The button finds a call, so going heads up to the flop, which comes 8-5 deuce, all spades. Overpair here with the jack of spades in our hand. We're loving life. Monotone board though, and I usually like to check on these types of flops, so I check it over to the button, and he has 5-10 in his stack. Will he bet here? Will he check? Will he rip it all in? He elects to go for the second option, and we're off to the turn. Turn comes a 9 of diamonds. Really doesn't change too much. We still have the overpair, still have the spade flush draw. When the flop gets checked through, now it's time to go for value. I bet a third of the pot for $55. The opponent doesn't think about it for too long before raising it up to $180. What is he representing with this raise? Sure, he could be slow playing a flush on the flop, but if it's a weak one, we still have the jack of spades we could suck out on him with. I guess he could also be representing 6-7 here. Pocket pairs like 5s, 8s, and 9s, although I have a hunch that pocket 5s and pocket 8s might bet on the flop when I check it over to them, considering their straight and flush draws out there. So I'm not folding an overpair here, and he doesn't have very much left in his stack. I don't want to check it over to him and he checks behind, so I just rip it all in for his effective $450. He doesn't think too long before finding a call. Not the best news for us, but we might still be ahead here. We're off to a river with over $1,000 in the pot, which comes a 10 of hearts. I turn over my jacks. He's surprised that I have that holding, not exactly sure why. When he mucks his cards, we're going to take down that $1,045 pot. Stuck only $465 now on the session. This next hand is an interesting one. I look down at jack 10 of clubs from the +1 position. $15 is on the button, and under the gun finds a call. I raise it up to $50 here with a suited connector, and Alex in middle position finds a call. The button and under the gun do as well. We're going 4 ways to the flop. Flop comes 9-3 deuce rainbow. We have 2 overcards and a backdoor straight draw. This multi-way, I'd probably lean towards a check, but in the moment, I decided to get fancy here and bet out for $60. We started with 4 players on the flop, and now we're down to just me and Alex. We're heads up and going off to a turn when he finds the call. Turn doesn't help us at all. It comes to 5 of clubs, but when I start betting on the flop, he probably doesn't have too strong of a hand, as those would have raised pre-flop. So I think when I started betting on the flop, I need to continue here on the turn. There's 320 in the pot, and I bet out for $225. A pretty chunky bet with just jack high and no backdoor draws. If we get called in this spot, he most likely has a set. I don't think he's going to have 2 pair. None of those really make sense. I'm discrediting all overpairs, as those probably would have raised us pre-flop, you'd think. There's no flush draws on board as well, so if he puts in the call here, we're going to have to be worried about pocket deuces, pocket 3s, even pocket 9s are unlikely. Hoping to just take down this pot with a fold from Alex, but he's not going to make it easy for us. He finds the call for $225. Alarm bells are going off in my head, and we're off to a river in a nearly $900 pot. River comes the queen of diamonds. We river the open-ended straight draw. Would have been a nice card to have on the flop or the turn. Either way though, alarm bells are going off in my head when he calls my nearly pot-sized bet there on the turn. I check it over to him, expecting to see a large bet here, and I'll just muck my jack high. But that's not what happens. He checks behind, which is definitely interesting. There's no way I can be good here with my jack 10 of clubs, right? When I turn over my cards, we see a hand we didn't expect to see, 5-7 of spades. Not exactly sure why he's floating us on the flop. He makes a pair on the turn and then calls $225. Shout out to you, Alex. Great call there, calling me down in that large pot. A bet on the river would have gotten it done. I just didn't really expect him to have 1 pair there. But either way, he gets rewarded with that $900 pot, and we're now stuck over $900 on this session. We got some work to do to climb out of this hole. We look down at queen 7 of hearts from the button. I have $10 on the button. In early position raises it up to $30. That's Barry. He's a super cool guy. Great action, great for the table. Hijack puts in the call. That brings in me as well. I have position here and I'm getting a good price, and we're off to a flop where we flop 2 pair. Queen 7-5 with 2 spades. Barry doesn't slow down. He bets out for $25, around 20% of the pot, and the hijack finds a call as well. I think I make a mistake here by just flat calling the $25 bet. I think a raise is probably the best option here. There's some draws on board and we have top 2. That's going to be good almost every time. In the moment though, I find a call and we're off to the turn, which comes the 10 of diamonds. Barry's first to act, and having 2 people call him on the flop is not very settling to him when he checks it over to the hijack, who checks it over to me. I'm not going to let this get checked through. Still a lot of draws out there, 195 in the pot, and I bet out for $115. Will we get 2 folds here? No, quite the opposite, you guys. We get 2 calls. Barry finds a call and the hijack. Not really what I expected, but I'm not really too worried unless a spade peels off on the river, which is exactly what happens. The 8 of spades, no less, connecting the board even further. Front door spades get there, 6-9, 9 jack. Not exactly the card we were looking for, and to make matters worse, Barry decides to wake up from his slumber on the turn and lead out for $675 into the $540 pot. Hijack says no bueno. He's out of the hand and the action's on me. Before you see what I do here, pause the video real quick and leave a comment down below. Are you guys calling this over pot size bet when the 8 of spades peels off on the river? Interested to see what you guys say. I go into the tank for a while. It's Barry. He's capable of bluffing here, but at the same time, the way he played his hand, check calling on the turn and then leading out on the river, is definitely indicative of a spade flush or a straight draw that now completed. So ultimately, I toss my mudkip to the side and muck my cards. Queen 7, I just don't think that's going to be good here. It's pretty much a bluff catcher. I show him the 7 of hearts, hoping to induce him to show us his cards as well. He does not. He immediately grabs the chips back, and he's going to take down that $540 pot. When it's not going away on the table, what could be better than 10 tamales hand delivered and you're allowed to eat them at the table? Absolutely insane. That cheered me up a little bit, but you know what cheers me up even more? My second ever honey bun here at Stacks. This was the place that I had my first ever honey bun around 2 months ago when I started off my road trip, and now that the road trip is almost over, had to do it justice by having one more honey bun. And that brings us to the next hand. We look down at Ace King offsuit, $15 on the button, and Alex, the player who called us with 5-7 of spades earlier, he limps in, and now Jared rips it all in for $730. I think about it for a second here, but when he rips it all in, he probably just has a pocket pair. Don't really think he'd be doing that with aces or kings. Would probably want other people to come in first and build the pot. So I have Ace King here. I'm probably flipping here, so I just put in my entire stack for $1,800.
Well, give me my chicken back.
Nobody else decides that they want to play this pot with us. It's just me and Jared, heads up.
Once or twice, sir. We'll go once.
I ask him once or twice. He says we'll go once, and we're off to a run out. I turn over my cards, and he turns over pocket queens. It's a good old-fashioned flip. We're gonna need to see an ace or king on the flop, which is exactly what comes. King Jack 3, bang! We outflop Jared. The turn comes the 5 of clubs. River is the jack of clubs, pairing the board. Our 2 pair is better than his 2 pair. $1,500 is coming our way. Now we're only stuck $440 on the session. Shout out to you, Jared. You're a super cool guy. Hate to have to do it to you, but queens versus ace king, a good old-fashioned flip. This one went my way. Last hand of the night here, I have $2,900 in our stack. We look down at king jack of hearts from early position. The $25 on the button is on. Under the gun puts in the call. I do as well, and that brings in 2 other players. Looking for an action cooler flop with $125 in the pot, which is exactly what comes. Queen 9-5 with 2 hearts. We have a gutter to the straight and the front door flush draw. Life's pretty good, and I'm first to act. I find a check. The action gets checked around, which gives us the nuts on the turn. It comes a 10 of spades. Bang! We turn the straight. Life's pretty good here. Can we get even on the session or even make a profit after being down $1,300 early? I bet out for $65. There's still some draws out there, 2 pairs, maybe some sets. $65 seems like a reasonable price. The button thinks so as well. He sticks in the call, going heads up to the river. River pairs the board though, so now some 2 pairs make boats. Sets makes boats as well. Not exactly a great situation, but with $255 out there, I still think we need to go for a chunky bet here. If he decides to put in the raise, we can debate folding, but that's going to be pretty tough. I bet out for $200. Unfortunately though, he finds a fold. We're not going to be put into a tough situation. session. We end that session with a $255 win. With that being said, we rack up our chips and head to the cage. All right, you guys, if you can't tell, we are exhausted. Played for 7 hours, got in for 2K, added on for another grand. At one point, we were stuck 1,300. At another point, we were up 1,000, but ended up getting out of the game for exactly the buy-in that we bought in for, $3,000. So a net profit loss of 0. Big goose egg, but we didn't lose any money, and that just shows you put your mind to it and you grind. You can get out of a hole 1,300 down, and we get out for a $0 loss. Awesome. I'm obviously rambling here. I'm exhausted. Got a 5-hour drive tomorrow to El Paso, so I'm gonna get some sleep. If you're in the area, hit up Stacks, say Wolfgang sent you. They're really nice people here. If you guys like this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're new. Leave a comment down below. Good luck on the felt as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace. Thanks for watching to the end of my video. Click my head below to subscribe and stay in the loop. See you next time.